Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this old video, we're gonna look at a case that was pretty big in Ireland, but not so big. Well, really anywhere else. The case of Elaine O'Hara and Graham Dwyer. This happened in 2012, and is heavily based in the good old BDSM stuff, so that's something to look forward to. We're also gonna look at some tickety texts that are not so nice. So look forward to that also, and what happened when Elaine O'Hara disappeared. So I guess we should begin with what happened to Elaine O'Hara. Elaine was born in Dublin in 1976 on St. Patrick's Day, no less. Growing up, she was bullied quite a lot at school, resulting in her developing a number of mental health issues and having to be hospitalized in psychiatric care. She would later be diagnosed with depression, borderline personality disorder, while suffering at the same time from asthma and diabetes. At 26 years old in 2002, her mother died, and later her doctor also died. Her doctor was actually a fellow by the name of Anthony Clare, who was pretty well known back in the day.
For every minor ailment, we drink gallons of cough mixture. And as for tranquilizers, drugs aren't always the only cure for your complaint, and your doctor may prefer other treatments, like exercise, a healthier diet, or a change in living habits.
She was actually quite close with her doctor, that's why that's worth mentioning. Because obviously she had to go see her doctor quite a bit from those issues I just told you about. So these two things, unsurprisingly, did not help her very much. I don't know how many people they do help, but she took it worse than most. Living in South Dublin, she was a lonely woman. She worked as a childcare assistant and also part-time in a local shop. And she was taking night classes in childcare, hoping and dreaming to become a Montessori teacher. So I guess all of that kind of brings us up to when she went missing, which is the point of the story. 36-year-old Elaine O'Hara disappeared from her home on August 22nd, 2012. Now, it was first thought that she had disappeared while volunteering at the tall ships races that were ending in Dublin around that time. She had been planning to volunteer at them, and they were kind of a big deal. But when the police were alerted and began investigating her home, they found, as they always do, her purse and phone at home. However, what was weird was that when the police were viewing the CCTV cameras, of her apartment building, they saw her leaving the apartment and out the door of the building with a different phone in her paws. A mystery phone. I wonder if that will be important later. Who knows? We'll see. She was last seen by a jogger in Shingana Park at 5:40 p.m, asking for directions. Shingana Park is about 15 minutes by car away from her home. Now in Shingana Park is Shingana Cemetery, where Elaine's mother was buried. A woman fitting Elaine's description was seen there, crying loudly beside an old grave, which is creepy as shit. The woman who saw her in Shingana Cemetery said she couldn't positively identify it as Elaine. She couldn't see her face. She only saw her from behind, but said that she was a biggish girl who was not recently bereaved. Now, the police did find her car in that park, and it was assumed there's cliffs there, there's dangerous cliffs in Shingana Park. It was assumed that she had jumped to her death, given her mental health history of self-harm, and earlier the day she went missing, she had actually been released from a psychiatric hospital after she entered one for having suicidal thoughts, so it seemed to fit. But they found no body.
finally, you're also looking for help in trying to track down a missing person.
Yeah, Elaine O'Hara, she's been missing for just over a month now. She went missing on the 22nd of August. We have found Elaine's car, but it hasn't given us any clues as to Elaine's whereabouts at the moment. She's about 5'4", she's 36 years of age.
And it would remain that way for over a year. So this is when things go up a notch. Over a year after Elaine O'Hara's mysterious disappearance in August 2013, 3 men in Reservoir found a bag in the water. Now, the summer of 2013 was a long, hot one, which is weird for Ireland, and so the water in the reservoir was lower than usual. That's how they found the bag. Reservoir is about 30 minutes by car from Elaine's house. Inside the bag, they found, fucking hell, handcuffs, clothes, a ball gag and restraints.
It was an extremely dry summer and the reservoir levels are dictated by the weather and the water use within Dublin. So it was the lowest I'd ever encountered it.
And then eventually I snagged a part of the rope and pulled up the rope, and there was a couple of sets of handcuffs and leg restraints on it. And next thing we found a mask. It was just a leather strap basically that went around and came around this way and then down, and there was a ball that's placed in your mouth.
Saucy. Alerting the police to this, because they found this stuff and were like, maybe someone was just having a bit of fun, but it was kind of weird. Gave the guys, one of the guys who found it, he put it in his van and he was like, gives me kind of an odd feeling. So he alerted the Irish police, the Gardaí, and then they popped by the reservoir and did some digging of their own. And what did they find? Well, more handcuffs, keys, a leather mask, a knife, and an inhaler. They also found a supermarket loyalty card, which turned out to be Elaine's. They were able to track it to being Elaine's by basically following the barcode. And they would also later find in the same reservoir 2 mobile phones, a pair of glasses and sunglasses matching Elaine's prescription, and a rucksack.
The items were handed in by William Fegan on the 11th of September 2013. These items consisted of clothing, handcuffs, shackles, and a number of other items of adult paraphernalia. I returned to the reservoir myself on the 12th, the following day, after contacting Mr. Fegan to ascertain the exact location of his find. On returning that day, I was unable to see any items that were visible from the bridge in the reservoir. I returned again on the 14th of September. Again, I could not observe any items that would have been in the water. Furthermore, I returned on the 16th of September. On this day, the weather conditions were far more favourable, and I was able to observe a number of items, or I was able to observe an item in the water, which was what I recognise to be a part of a set of handcuffs partially submerged. I climbed down, as I had done the previous day, to the reservoir bed, and in this occasion I entered the reservoir to look for the items. I retrieved a number of items.
So, seems pretty obvious someone was dumping evidence in the reservoir to hide their tracks. No diggity, no doubt. And one more thing, it's probably important to note, actually, because this is how they found her body. Toward the end of August 2013, around the same time those 3 lads found Elaine's stuff in the reservoir, a dog trainer would regularly take her dogs for walks in the foothills of the Dublin mountains, really not far from where Elaine lived. So this woman would take her dogs out and they'd be off running around, exploring, having a grand old time. And those dogs would bring back bones to the dog trainer. Yeah, at first the woman thought, these bones, they were animal bones, deer bones perhaps, that the dogs are just finding and bringing back. So she didn't think anything of it. And this went on for a couple of weeks, until one day in around early September, a dog brought a bone back while it was rummaging around through the forests of the mountains. The bone had a bit of clothing on it. Either the deer were having a fancy dress party, or that ain't no deer. Exploring the area, the remains of Elaine O'Hara were found, though there wasn't much. A few scattered bits and pieces, jawbone, rib cage. She'd been there for 13 months. The Gardaí were then contacted, and they only found 2/3 of her body. Animals had taken the rest. She was identified through dental records.
Human skeletal remains were discovered here in a wooded area at Killikee Mountain near Rathfarnham in South Dublin on Friday evening by a woman out walking her dog.
So, holy shit, you might say. And so we got one of them murders on our hands, and the investigation done begun. The Gardaí discovered that Elaine had been visiting a BDSM website for 5 years before she disappeared. Under the username Trimi. Not me. That's not her name. Shit. Hers was called Help Me Learn 38F. And she'd been linked to another account, Architect 72. And the police would discover who was behind the profile of Architect 72. It would turn out to be a man named Graham Dwyer, who was actually shockingly, he was an architect, if you can believe it. I know, what are the odds his job would match his profile username? Small world.
Architect Graham Dwyer from Oberman Associates. Graham specialises in computer 3D perspective. So tell me your inspiration for the room.
Well, the challenge here was to create an individual look around a standard white bathroom suite. So the approach I took was a modern one, using just simple geometry and colour for effect.
Yeah, because the first thing I noticed is this amazing wall. Is it a wall? Is it a wall? Is it a wall? Brilliant.
Indeed, yeah. Yes, you can cut lino into any shape to suit your design. Indeed.
Excellent.
The mirror is quite unusual in that it has lights in it.
Great stuff, Graham. I see why they pay you the big bucks.
Exactly.
Great.
He was a couple of years older than Elaine. From Cork by. He was married and had 3 children. He was a director at an architect firm and enjoyed the high life, but was deep in debt as a result of the 2008 crash. And it turned out him and Elaine had been partaking in the BDSM lifestyle. As you do, but like hardcore. You can see where this is going. Bondage, violence, and knives. They had a relationship from 2007 that ended late 2008, but began again in 2011. With a text from Graham that said, "This is an old friend. We used to play together, and I miss it terribly. Would love to catch up." Fuck this dude. Elaine replied, "I'm not into blood anymore." But he sure was. Violent homemade sex videos and fragments of emails were retrieved from both their laptops. In some videos, he was having sex with her while she was gagged, and he was stabbing her. Yikes! They also found videos of him doing stuff like that to other women. So, analysing more of the CCTV from Elaine's apartment complex, the police noticed the man visiting her apartment numerous times. A week before Elaine's disappearance, he, spoiler alert, it was Graham, was spotted with the same backpack found in the reservoir. The Gardaí also found a splooge in Elaine's bed that would later be linked to one Graham Dwyer by old DNA. Don't know why I said it like that. And it turns out that the mystery phone Elaine was seen with when she was leaving her apartment complex, that wasn't her regular phone, was her master-slave phone. Exciting! Recovered texts from the 2 phones that were found in the reservoir. They was nasty. It showed how he was extremely manipulative to a vulnerable person like Elaine, and his violence, it was only going one way. Up. Unfortunately, for one person who was into knives and blood play so much, he didn't just kill himself for the ultimate sexual experience. I know, right? Weird. Why didn't he think of that? So let's go through some texts, shall we? I don't really want to, but I feel like I should show you guys what happened. Graham, or rather, Master. I want to stick my knife. Okay, I'm actually going to start this again, but I'm going to add some funny music, because this is just disturbing. I want to stick my knife in flesh while I am sexually aroused. I would like to stab a girl to death sometime. Still dying to knife someone. Stab, stab, rape, kill. It will all be worth it when I kill you. Smiley face. I'm your secret killer. My urge to rape, stab, or kill is huge. You have to help me control or satisfy it. Elaine would respond that she only wanted a loving relationship, a baby, and not to be, stabbed. Not to be stabbed anymore. I'm a person. I have dignity. Graham responded, not when you're chained up, you don't. If anything happened to you, who knows about me? You will have stab wounds, you know the drill. Last few did not bleed, these will. So the Gardaí found all of this stuff on their laptops and put handcuffs on Graham, funnily enough. He initially said, Elaine? Who? I'm racking my brains? No idea who you're talking about. Sorry. Then he would admit that he did know Elaine and they had a relationship. But he didn't kill her. He swore he didn't kill her. Jesus, lads, not me. Fucking hell. The police disagreed, and he was never granted bail, so...
Graham Dwyer didn't speak during the brief hearing because he's facing a charge of murder. An application for bail will have to be made to the High Court, as the District Court does not have the jurisdiction to grant it. Judge Bridget Riley remanded Graham Dwyer in custody to appear again at Clover Hill District Court this day week.
And they actually found some more sick shit on the laptops. His laptop, especially. Short stories that he wrote about him travelling to Newcastle in the United Kingdom and stabbing a woman there. And another one that was titled Killing Darcy. Darcy is a real person. Darcy Day, who lived in Maine, USA. He had met her on the internet and offered to kill her. She had struggled with suicidal thoughts at the time and... well, unfortunately, around this time she ran into this big old piece of shit who wanted to kill her for fun.
But about 8 to 9, I think it's been about 9 months now. 9 months ago, I got a knock on my door from a detective from the Major Crimes Unit. And apparently, one of the men that I talked to online ended up being suspected of murdering a woman that he was acquainted with. And I am now a key witness in a murder trial. And in another 2 to 3 weeks, I have to take the stand and give my testimony against this alleged killer. And I want to start off first. I just want to start off by I want to pray for this man. And I want you all to pray for the family of this woman who was murdered. And Lord, I just pray that you reach into this man's heart and you just please change him, Heavenly Father. And I just pray.
She didn't die, spoiler alert. And the trial began in January 2015. The defense said there's nothing linking him to her actual death. Her body, skeleton, it had no cause of death. And she was suicidal, so there's that. The defense kind of just kept saying, she just killed herself. Yeah, as you do. By dumping all your stuff in a reservoir and then killing yourself 30 minutes away while leaving your car another 30 minutes away. Right. They said, yeah, sure, he talked about killing her and stabbing her a lot, but come on, he was just playing around. There's no way that, if that's what actually ended up happening to her, that, he actually meant those things. That's just a coinky-dink. He would never actually do it. The prosecution said that the evidence pointed to a plan by Graham to commit and get away with murder. He had used Elaine's low self-esteem to manipulate her, and he had a desire to kill. They said Elaine was not a willing participant in sexual violence. She repeatedly expressed her wish not to be stabbed and not to be beaten by him. She only wanted companionship, love, and ultimately a child. Knowing that she had recently been released from psychiatric hospital, Graham lured her to Shingana Park, got her in the car and took her to the mountains, murdered her, and thought that if she ever would be discovered, like the defense said, they would just assume it was a suicide. But his attempt to conceal the relationship he had with Elaine by dumping all their shit in the reservoir was kind of enough to prove that he knew what he was doing. So, there's that. In March 2015, Graham Dwyer was convicted in a unanimous verdict, and he was sentenced to life in prison, which in Ireland actually averages out to be only about 18 years, so...
Firstly, I wish to acknowledge that this has been a most difficult time for Frank O'Hara and his family. Today marks a significant step for the family in coming to terms with Elaine's death and the circumstances surrounding it. I can only hope that the family gains some comfort in knowing that no effort was spared by the investigation team in Blackrock. With regard to the investigation itself, it proved to be varied and complex, involving all the Garda disciplines and even transcended outside the jurisdiction. It ranged from the diligent work of Garda Donoghue and Roundwood Garda Station to the meticulous and comprehensive approach adopted by the investigation team in Blackrock. This case was grounded in the expert evaluation and use of data in both the investigative process and the trial process. The investigation reflected the era of information technology in that it married detailed and sometimes minute information derived from fundamental policing with the most sophisticated of technological systems. This was a crime that had profound and devastating consequences for a number of people and will affect families for many years to come. But today, my thoughts and the thoughts of the entire investigation team are with the O'Hara family. Personally, I can only hope that no family will ever have to endure what Frank O'Hara and his family have endured. Thank you.
So after the trial was all done and dusted, it wasn't quite over. And this part is actually continuing to this day. See, in 2018, Graham Dwyer actually won a legal battle against the Irish state. The Gardaí accessing his phone was a key part of putting this fucker away, but it was against European Union law, the right to privacy, and the retention of data. So the long and short of it is, a court ruled that Irish legislation, which allows data from mobile phones to be retained and accessed, is against EU law and the European Convention on Human Rights, because you don't need a court order to review it. Essentially, it comes down to there was an incompatibility of Irish law with European Union law. And the case has recently, and when I say recently, I mean in 2020, been referred to the European Union Court of Justice. So, I'm not sure if that means he could actually be released from prison, because even though they proved he killed her, they'd gotten that information. It's not good. So I feel sick after all that. And you know, during the trial, a number of witnesses actually came forward, female witnesses, who said, yeah, Graham did similar stuff to them, minus the murder part. But he was on the road to killing probably multiple people if he hadn't actually been caught. There could be a lot more women in the Dublin mountains, which is not good. I need a drink after all that. I'm sure you do too, but thankfully when I'm posting this, it's Paddy's Day, so I'll drink to that. Thank you so much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. I will see you as always real soon in the next video. Take care of yourselves. Mike out.